Welcome back to Whistle, and we are sitting here today with Coach Hampton from Nettleton. And Coach, I'm going to give you the floor to introduce yourself.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me and doing this. Of course, my name's Stephen Hampton. I'm the head football coach at Nettleton High School. This will be my 13th season at Nettleton. About my 26th year overall coaching. I'm from Louisiana, so I'm not an Arkansas guy. I'm a foreigner around here. I feel like I've made Jonesboro my home now, though. I've been here long enough. But I'm from Louisiana. I went to Louisiana Tech. Used to be a big rival with Arkansas State back in the day. We used to be in the same conference. Wish it was still that way, but anyway, I came to know about Jonesboro and Arkansas State that way. After finishing playing, I got into coaching. I thought I wanted to be a college coach starting out. My first job was at a junior college in Kansas, up in Highland, Kansas, and coached there for one season. And then one of my position coaches at Louisiana Tech got the job at UCA, came down, coached at UCA for 3 years, and then that's when I transitioned into high school. So like a lot of young coaches, early in my career I moved around, kind of bounced around. I went to Texas, from back to Louisiana, and then met my wife, who's an Arkansas girl, so that's where we ended up in Arkansas. So I've been in Benton, Arkansas, Rogers, Arkansas, and then Jonesboro, kind of covering the state. So
you have for sure been everywhere.
Yeah, it feels like it. It feels like it sometimes, but yeah, like I said, we've been here. This will be our 13th year at Nettleton, and this is home. This is my son, when we came here, was a first grader and has graduated now. So, you put down roots, and this is what we call home.
For sure. So do you with you bouncing around, early like you did? Do you kind of remember when you like you just said a while ago, this is home? Do you remember when that kind of set in? You were like, this is where I want to be.
Yeah, I think early on, it just, and every move was kind of, at the time, was kind of a logical move. Yeah. There was a reason, a process that went behind each time. But, we came here, I wanted to be a head coach, got the opportunity. Nettleton gave me an opportunity to be a head football coach, and we came here, and just the people, the admin that we had here, and then now a lot of it's changed, but it's still, they're extremely supportive. So once we got here and we kind of dug in, we just knew this is the place we wanted to be. So this is where we're at, and look forward to being here. Until they tell me I can't.
Exactly. And on that, you started and you were coached in college, junior college. Personally, I want to be a college football coach right now, but as you said, that's what you wanted to be, and then you switched to this. You had something in you that switched. What was that? What said, I want to go coach high school football?
Well, I love football. I love the game of football. I love coaching. I did not enjoy the recruiting aspect of it as much. And it's not like it was now.
Of course,
with NIL and transfer portal, that's a whole nother animal. But, what a lot of people don't understand, football season is stressful, it's time consuming, but at the collegiate level, the off season is just as time consuming and stressful. 7 days a week, it doesn't stop, it doesn't slow down. And so if you're someone that really, wanting to have a family, wanting to be involved with your family, as much as I did, I knew that probably wasn't going to be the route for me at that time. So that's when I transitioned, and I haven't looked back.
It has worked out great,
It has.
Your son Maddox is his name, correct?
Yes.
That's awesome. And Maddox being able to play for you growing up, and was a heck of a quarterback. And we were talking about this up on the way. Is like, I can imagine if my dad coached me.
Well, because it's like, already as a head football coach, that quarterback-coach relationship is already so, that's crucial. You have to be able to be on the same page with that guy. And you have to keep him accountable, too.
Yeah.
What would you say about that? What can you say about that being your son? Does that bring it to a whole nother level? Do you have to kind of divide house and field? Is that
I tried. I got some advice from a coaching friend of mine who played for his dad, and I'm like, can you help me out? Give me something to go on here. And basically, he told me, his advice was to try to separate things. When he played for his dad, they didn't talk about football at home. They didn't discuss that thing.
I gotcha.
I tried that, and it didn't quite work out for us because that most of our conversations around the dinner table revolved around, that day's practice, the upcoming game, and so I just embraced it. We just, talked about it. It wasn't necessarily me being coach, but a lot of times it was me listening to him just talk about what he was seeing, what he was feeling, throughout the season, and just tried to embrace it that way.
How important do you think it is to listen to your players? Like, I know some coaches, they're obviously, they sometimes don't listen to the players as much, and what they think is the only thing that matters. How, like, for you, what is that player relationship and what they have to say? How much does that, and how important is that to you?
I think it's crucial. I think there's certain times where you have to say, this is what we're going to do, and go with it. But I think every coach wants what they call buy-in. They want their players to buy in. And I think when players and coaches, assistant coaches, feel like they have a voice and it's heard, and it's, I think that leads to more buy-in. I think that they're more willing to buy in if they feel like they have a say and a voice in what's going on. And that we try to do that especially with our seniors, because they've been through our program. We want them to have a voice. We want to hear them. We want them to be able to express concerns. Bring those to us. We meet with them every week about what's going on within our team. And take suggestions. And sometimes we use them, sometimes we don't. But we try to communicate that and why we don't, but I think it's crucial to listen to your players.
And so in that, listening to your players, and you use that phrase buy-in, a lot of times, the coach speak is like build a culture. You know what I mean? So like to get people to buy in, you have to have a culture established. What, as far as like the off the field things, like you said, listening to them, hearing them out, is that kind of how you kind of spearhead the culture building? Yeah,
I think, culture's been a buzzword, lately, the past few years. To me, for us and our program, our culture is built on how we interact with our kids every single day. How we talk to them, how we joke around with them. We coach them hard, but we're also in the locker room with them after practice, joking with them. Sometimes there's issues that come up in their personal lives, and so we're there for them in those times, and they know that. And so I think for us, that's where our culture comes from. It's just how we interact day in and day out.
I like that, yeah.
And in that same, like, in off the field and out of the field house, in the classrooms, in the city, do you try to, as a coach, do you try to drill into them the fact that no matter if you're on the field, if you're in the classroom, if you're out in the city, you are a Raider and you represent us? Like, what does that look like? Is that like being a Raider? Do you try to instill that into their DNA?
Part of our program, when kids come into our program, we want them to understand that they represent more than themselves. When you're an athlete, whether that's a football player, whether you're basketball, whatever it is, that's how you're labeled. It's not Stephen Hampton. It's if I got something happen, it's going to be Stephen Hampton, Nettleton Head Football Coach. That's what they're going to say. That's what's going to be in the news. That's what And so our kids have to understand that they represent something larger than themselves. And so sometimes that means making sacrifices, and it's being committed, and and just being accountable for your actions, whether that's out there on the football field or whether it's in the classroom. Because every teacher, if they get a student that's misbehaving in class, first person they're going to call or email is the football coach.
Exactly.
And so that's just part of it, and we want those guys to understand that.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times too, like I like what you said, it's kind of a buzzword, but a lot of times if you can instill that and deeply root that into your players, like, hey, play for the name on the front of the jersey, and a lot of times people are going to, they'll know the name on the back of the jersey because of that, because when you're playing for something, when you're playing for that shield, you know what I mean? It's like you are playing with a different kind of passion, and that can only lead to, better results.
Right.
And it matters more. You know what I mean? So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard someone said before, if you play for the name on the front, the name on the back will flourish, and that's like that is 100%. I firmly believe that, and it seems as that is what is instilled around here. And before we preview next season, I do want to take a look back at last season. So from what we have, you went 7-4 last year. You were 5-2 in the conference, which was good. Was that third? Or second?
We were third. We were three seed. Yep,
3 seed. And so you took on Lakeside in the first round of the 5A state playoffs and lost that game. So in preparation for a team like Lakeside, what does when going into the state playoffs, it's a different mentality. You know, you've had you want to still have that mentality you had in the season, but it means bigger. I mean, it's a win or go home situation. So, how do you prepare your players to take on a game of that caliber?
Well, we try to keep. You talked about the preparation. We try to keep as far as our preparation doesn't change necessarily as far as practice schedule and how we practice. Hopefully, we're practicing at a way. You know, with playoffs in mind all the way through. You know, that's the goal. That's the goal. But as far as the mentality of, it is a win or go home mentality, and there are no redos. You don't get a second chance. You got to make the most of your opportunities, and you know you got to focus in on all the little things that we've been preaching all through season. But those things tend to come to light even more so in the playoffs. Just, you know, and I think sometimes kids think it's the big things that lead to wins and losses, but most of the time it's just the little things. It's the little details that if you can take care of, it's going to lead to success or the opportunity for success in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember one of the guys that I grew up and just because there was a point in time where I too wanted, like, the coaching route seemed super intriguing to me, and one guy that I always looked up to was Bill Belichick and just his approach. And I remember in like the mid-2010s when they were kind of going on that last stint of that dynasty, the thing that whole team kept, that was their mantra, was do your job. And it's as simple as that a lot of times. And you try to convey that to your players, like at the simplest form of this game, if you will just do your job, whatever your position job is supposed to be, if you're able to do that, we'll have success. And, like you said, it comes down to the little things.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's great that's been good for high school is we have the sideline replay system, because before that, a lot of times something would go wrong and, kids they start trying to do someone else's job. They think something's broke. It's not working. We got to, I got to try to do something outside of my own job. But most of the time when you go back and you watch the replay system, it's usually, one detail. Somebody was in the wrong gap, somebody, blocked the wrong guy or missed the block. It's one detail that you can go back to, that we can correct this one detail. Let's get back on track. You don't have to do anything outside of your own job. It's easier said than done sometimes when you're dealing with kids. But I think the replay system on the sideline has helped us the past few years go back to that, and they can see it, they can understand it. It's not broke. It's, the world's not coming to an end.
Exactly.
And just the details that lead, especially when you're in a playoff game where the margin for error is so small. Like, you turn the ball over, and it leads to points. You miss a block on a key 3rd and 2, and now you're 3rd and 4th and 6 or something, and you don't have the opportunity to go for it. Those things in a playoff situation are crucial, and so we try to stress those things throughout the season. That way, when we get in that moment, they're ready for it.
You want to magnify the fundamentals of the game. So that, like, when you're in that moment, it's, you're prepared. You know what I mean? You're calloused almost.
I think, we call it the fog of war. Sometimes when you get out there and things are just kind of going crazy and everything looks foggy, and it's just like, we try to give it, just go back to your fundamentals.
Exactly.
Go back to the basic steps, and you can't be wrong there. If you're an offensive lineman, you're supposed to take a 6-inch step, take a 6-inch step, punch for the inside, whatever it is. Just go back to your basics, go back to your fundamentals, and that'll get you through that kind of what we call the fog of war in those moments where things are just kind of going haywire.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, but I really do like that. So we turn our heads to this next season. So obviously your son is now not the quarterback anymore. So what, as you know, we're a few weeks, we're just getting into the off season. It's starting. We're starting to preview next season. What, as you look at the team, the overall landscape of the team, what is exciting you about the team? What players? Just maybe a philosophy change, and what is your philosophy? Maybe looking forward to this next team. What is exciting you about this next group you got?
Well, first of all, every team's different, every group's different, every season's different, and so the biggest thing that I see with this group is team chemistry. They genuinely like each other and care about each other. They hang out outside of football, and that seems like a simple thing, but that's not always the case.
Oh yeah.
We've had teams here, and that the chemistry. They may have had good players, but the chemistry wasn't right.
Yeah, sure.
And you have to have that when we're talking about getting into those crucial games, those close games that you're going to be in. You have to have good chemistry and cohesiveness. That's number one. Number two. We have some talented kids. We have quite a bit of speed this year. We feel like we're not going to be as big as maybe we have been in years past. And so how can we take all of that athleticism and speed and translate it to a scheme on defense? Is kind of our number one priority right now. Last year we were a 4-man front. This year we're probably going to be a 3-man front because we don't have as many big body guys.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to put more speed on the field.
For sure.
Offensively, we're trying to replace the 3-year starter at quarterback. Who's that guy going to be? Right now we've got 2 guys that have worked their tails off all off season, and both of them have put themselves in a position to battle for that spot going into fall.
And
camp.
not to mention the guy you had back there, quarterback had an arm. I mean, he was a gunslinger. I mean, he could throw the ball. That was his specialty. So moving into finding a new quarterback as a quarterback myself, it's a big job to try to battle for.
He's
It is.
comfortable with the system. He understands the progression and everything like that. What are you expecting of them and stuff like that?
Yeah. That it is, and I don't think unless you've played that position, understand everything that goes into it. We ask a lot of our quarterbacks. I mean, they have to communicate protections to our offensive line, communicating to skill guys. They have a lot on their plate, and they have to worry about catching a snap, getting the ball to the right guy, executing the play. So it's a lot going on. And that doesn't even take into account what's on the other side of the line of scrimmage that's coming to try to get them.
Exactly.
In a lot of cases. So it's a lot. And we've been through this. When my son he started as a sophomore, we tried to ease him into it and really tried to really center our offense around the things that he did well. And that's what we're going to have to do with these guys. And fortunately for them, we have an all-state running back, Xavier Harrell, coming back. So obviously he's going to get a lot of carries, and we're going to rely on him a great deal, especially early on. But we also have Jordan Simmons out at wide receiver, who's an all-conference explosive player that we've got to be able to get the ball to as well.
Of course, yeah.
And so those are things that we're working on with our quarterbacks and just trying to build our offense around what they do well.
Yeah, so and to build on what you're saying there, one thing I'm intrigued to ask is, season after season there's turnover on rosters, right? There's roster turnover every single year. Outside of like the normal, like the fundamentals, get your playmakers the ball, limit turnovers, what changes do you keep consistent outside of like the small tweaks, other than like, hey, we can run the ball better this year, or, we had a gunslinger the last few years, that opens up the ability to kind of get the one-on-one matchups with a guy on the boundary, let your playmaker make a play and stuff like that. Outside of that, what always are you trying to instill and like keep fundamentally sound in your teams outside of the things that are changing with the roster turnover?
Really it comes down to just teaching the fundamentals of the game. Talking about blocking, that doesn't change. Tackling doesn't change. Being physical. We want to be a physical, tough football team. And that's never going to change. And so those things are things within our off-season program, our summer and conditioning, we pride ourselves on, and we want to hang our hat on, because you can win a lot of games by playing with great effort, playing with great technique, and just being dang tough. You know?
Absolutely.
Football, you never know what the conditions are going to be on a Friday night. It could be, late in the season, it's going to be cold. Could be raining. Could be, we played 3 years ago at Shiloh, and it's snowing, sideways snow. It's hitting us in the, sleet and snow on the side of the head. And, I mean, that's football. And it's not for the, faint of heart. And so you have to be a tough individual to play this game. And that's what we try to stress to our kids, that take pride in being a football player. Take pride in who you are. Take pride in the work that you do, because it's easy. There's a lot of kids that are sleeping in on, right now, and our kids are up, getting their workout in, and so be prideful of that.
Absolutely.
And sounds good. Thank you. For some, a lot of teams, players and the people that get the glory is the head coach and the players. The people that kind of get put behind the scenes that don't get as much of the spotlight as your assistant coaches, and they are probably one of the most crucial parts of the team. So when, as a head coach, what are you looking for when you're looking for your offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator, and your position coaches, and even if it goes into the strength and conditioning aspect? What are you, as a head coach, what are you looking for in that?
Number one, I want high character guys. I want guys that are, outside of football or high character individuals. Number two, you got to be knowledgeable of the game. Obviously, to be able to teach it and coach it, you got to be knowledgeable. I think this is something that's diminishing in our coaching circle. It's changed a lot since I got into this. Is just loyalty, being loyal to one another as coaches, being loyal to our program, our kids, and then just hard work. We ask a lot of our kids. We want them to work hard and do right. And as coaches, we got to show up and give them our best every day.
For sure.
And so those things are just what I look for. And, I'm fortunate. I'm glad you brought this up. This year I'll have 4 former players coaching for me.
That's huge.
2 of them are on the junior high staff, and then 2 will be on our varsity staff. So, DeAndre Henry played quarterback back in 2017. He's on our offensive staff. Jalen Allison, he was on my first team here, played defensive line. He's coaching our defensive line. And then on our junior high staff, Cade Carter played quarterback for us. He's on our junior high staff, just finished up his schooling at ASU. And then Jamaris Pegram just finished up at Monticello. He played offensive line for us. So we got 4 guys that are going to be on our staff.
I know Pegram pretty well. I know, and his brother Jordan.
Yep.
His dad James. So I know the Pigrams pretty well too. Definitely a heck of a family.
And Henry was around my age when I was in high school. So when you said that, I kind of looked up a little bit.
And those are guys that have come through our program. DeAndre, gosh, he went and played quarterback at Hendrix. Graduated there, got a master's degree from Vanderbilt. So,
awesome.
He's a dog.
Teaches science here at the high school. It's somebody that he's been through these. Our program been through those halls, and so we want our kids to see that. Yeah,
and he absolutely. I mean, just from knowing him from back in that day, I mean, absolutely matches that high character. So. One of the things I want to talk about with every coach, kind of as we bring a close to the interview here, is Gavin kind of highlighted that the head coach and the quarterback gets a lot of shine. With that, though, when things aren't going well, I think things can go down to the quarterback not playing well, or what people will say, and then above that, the head coach kind of gets that. So, one of the things we highlighted when we started talking about the show was a lot of times when everything's going right, head coach doesn't hear anything because you're supposed to be getting wins. When things are starting to go poorly, what are you doing wrong? Why is this not working out? So, we kind of look back at one of our favorite quotes is the man in the arena. So, as someone who has done this for as long as you have, and you are constantly under, the public eye, like we said, when you're doing it right, there's not a lot of praise. When something's going wrong, it's all your fault. What keeps you headstrong and set on where you're at as not only a football coach, as a man And what would you offer to younger coaches who are starting to kind of find their way in this career?
Well, fortunately, I have Clint Wilson, who's my offense coordinator, been on staff for 13 years. You know, he's been with me the whole time. You know, the first hire I got to be here. So he's someone that I can go to, and we can discuss, are we doing the right things? Because sometimes you can do the right things and it may not be leading to the results that you want. But as long as you're doing the right things day in and day out, you know, that's what's most important. Are you treating kids right? Are you coaching them the right way? And I'm going to kind of circle back.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I first got into the coaching, I was at UCA, and just like a lot of young coaches, when we won, I felt, you know, sky high. And then when we lost, I felt like the bottom of the barrel, you know, and it was just kind of a roller coaster of up and down. And we had a coach on staff, you know, and just talked about, you know, your why are you coaching? Are you coaching for wins? Are you coaching to make an impact? And knowing why you're doing this, I think, is the most important. You know, and we're having an impact in kids' lives every single day. There are victories beyond the scoreboards, what we like to say, that people may not see, but there are victories.
Yeah.
And so as long as sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that, and so that's the main thing. And I believe if you continue to do things the right way, treat kids the right way, then the end result, you're going to eventually get the result you want.
Yeah.
So you just got to stay the course. You know, that's the thing we talk about with our kids. We expect them to do is stay the course and continue to fight and continue to, you know, do the right thing. We as coaches have to follow our own advice sometimes and do the same thing.
Incredible. Awesome. Yeah. My last question I have for you. Everybody has a mentor. Everybody has a guy that when they look back, it's like, man, I want to be like that guy, or man, I would like to, you know, coach like that guy. For you, be a pro, it can be a college coach, it can be as simple as somebody you've learned from or read a book from. Who do you, as a coach, kind of want to model your coaching game after, just in life in general?
Well, I played for a lot of good coaches. I've coached with and for a lot of good coaches, and I tried to take something, you know, from each one of those. But as far as one coach that probably had the most impact is probably my high school coach, Joe Meeks. He's passed on now. He was my high school coach. He just had a way of connecting with kids that, you know, you've heard that they'd run through a brick wall for him, you know, and that's the guy that I want to be. That I knew he cared about me. I knew he loved me. He just had a way of showing it. And so that's what I want to be to my players. You know, and then after I was here, and you know, this is 30 years after I played for him or whatever it was. And, you know, he gets me a call after the 2017 season. We had a really good year. And he gave me a call. It meant the world to me that he was at least following my career and knew. And just wanted to tell me he was proud of me. So that meant the world to me. And so that's just, you know, kind of my, I guess, my mentor. That's meant the most to me in my career.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
well,
awesome.
Do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, we can't thank you enough for sitting down with us and talking for a little bit.
Sure.
It's been great. Lots of great stuff here.
A lot of it.
Super cool to dive into it.
We can't wait to watch Nettleton get to play.
You got you. Well, we'll look forward to it.
Yes,
Look
sir.
forward to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
You bet.